Hello, everyone, and welcome to this audio podcast. As part of a Meteor edition. This audio podcast as part of a Labostix Meteor. This audio podcast as part of a biome bullet. This audio podcast as part of the abstracts. This audio podcast as part of a Storm Labostix production. In this audio podcast, looking at sort of an abstract, from in around 2019, and where the abstract was put forward, sort of peer reviewed and published works. Published works in around 2019 in amongst a scientific medical journal, and the abstract looks at using social media, mainstream media, to prompt organ donation and transplantation education, and sort of a scientist perspective on chronic kidney disease, or CKD. So in around the abstracts, the abstract is as follows. So the use of social media today provides unparalleled opportunities to provide and receive education and access to communication and sort of and interaction. Social media, or mainstream media, such as television, newspapers, magazines, and radio stations, are also being used, or have also been used, to prompt education surrounding specific long-standing conditions. Certainly, the use of social media is not limited by constraints of time and geography. In amongst the aims, three questions formed the sort of aims of part of this abstract. Number one, is there an Islamic stance on using social media or mainstream media to prompt organ donation and transplantation education? Number two, can Muslims donate their organs? And three, do the healthcare scientists have a role providing the public education surrounding organ donation and transplantation? In amongst the As part of this, chronic kidney disease, or CKD will be used to provide a long term condition example. So in amongst the review, there is a need for a multi-channel approaches, so that the issues are more broadly known amongst the social norm, and broadly known in amongst the sort of social norm in amongst primary care, and where healthcare scientists will know underlying pathologies. In amongst the Islamic stance, for example, if a Muslim decides to donate an organ, they must do so out of free will, without being morally or socially forced, and without economic pressures. If the deceased Muslim indicated during life, for example, in a will, that they do not want to donate organs, then no one is authorized. No one is authorized to do so on the deceased person's behalf. In amongst the healthcare scientists, bases more educational campaigns, for example, through social media and mainstream media, involving healthcare scientists and Muslim communities are required. In amongst sort of discussions and conclusions of this abstracts, bridging gaps. Gaps in health literacy is are also important. This is where healthcare scientists where healthcare scientists have an important role to provide health science transparency, health science transparency, and where other health professionals where other health professionals are challenged. Clarity of terminology to help increase health literacy on topics relating to organ donation and transplantation is now especially required, owing to more time being spent owing to more time amongst the public amongst the public spending time online. And in amongst sort of the conclusions, number one, in amongst the conclusions, a part of in amongst the conclusion in context of the questions as part of the aims of this abstract. So number one, the Islamic stance on the use of social media to prompt organ donation or transplant education has not been investigated. And number two, Muslims can donate organs. And three, there is a role for healthcare scientists to provide education. However, more research is required to shed light on what is the most effective approach for healthcare scientists to be or become proactive. To be or become proactive. Some terminologies to identify similar works amongst the literature include healthcare, scientists, organ donation, transplantation, education, literacy, perspective. And perspective. Uh, and the That draws this audio podcast to a close. This audio podcast is part of a Meteor edition. This audio podcast is part of Labostix, Meteor. This audio podcast is part of a Biome Bullet. This audio podcast as part of the abstracts. And this audio podcast as part of a Storm Labostix production.